Well, thank you everybody for joining us and welcome back, Melissa, to the webinar Wednesdays that are your life. We appreciate you all joining us and getting on this call today. As always, please use the chat feature for any questions you have and be sure to mute your lines. We will answer questions at the end of the whole presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to John to kick it off.
Thank you very much, Hope. Welcome everyone to this week's webinar, and welcome back, Melissa Bova. I'm glad to have you back. I know everyone is, and I hope you had a really nice vacation. As a reminder, this week's webinar is designed for the use and benefit of our restaurant, hotel, travel, and tourism industry, as well as other friends of PRLA. It's an off-the-record event, not designed for the press. So if you're with the press, please disconnect now and call us anytime, and we'd be happy to conduct interviews. And speaking of interviews, this session today is sponsored by our good friends at Food Shelter, which is a full-service public relations firm, happens to be Philadelphia-based, but they do work throughout the state of Pennsylvania and beyond. And Food Shelter is the pro bono PR agency for the PRLA, and have been instrumental over the last year in getting nearly 1,500 insertions and 9 billion impressions about the plight of the Pennsylvania hotel, restaurant, and travel and tourism industries, the effect of the mitigating efforts, and about the need for financial assistance. So if you have they specialize in restaurants, but they do anything that you need to get done. If you need any public relations help, or even if you don't know that you need it, reach out to Food Shelter, because I think that you'll find that they can really help you enhance the reach of your marketing within your operation. So with that, Melissa, again, welcome back, and I'll turn it over to you.
Hey everyone, be gentle. Like I said, it's my first day back and I'm still weeding through emails. So if you did send me an email in the last week, I'm working through them and I promise to get back to you. And as fair warning, you get me this week and then next week, the money pit that is my dog is getting an echocardiogram. So you'll have to muddle through next week without me. But for right now, let's jump into federal. We have some really key updates to share with you today. RRF, the Restaurant Revitalization Grant Program, that $28 billion federal recovery package, it is expected to open within the next 30 to 45 days. I guess they learned with the Shuttered Venue Grant Program that maybe you shouldn't wait 3 months to open up a grant program to an industry that's decimated. So we do expect that to open within 30 to 45 days. We do not have draft regulations yet from the SBA. So a lot of those nitty-gritty questions that we're really waiting for answers on, for example, one we're getting a lot of is hotels. Hotels, if they have a restaurant, is the restaurant eligible? Is the hotel eligible? All of those are items that we are looking to get answered in these regulations once they're released. So we don't have a set date yet, but it will be within the next 30 to 45 days. Second, remember that really disconcerting, frustrating exercise we went through a few weeks ago about Duns and Sams? You don't need those anymore. So it looks like, again, the SBA has realized that going through an entire process to create a federal account actually made it more difficult for those that needed the funds the most. So when the grant program does open, it's not going to require you to go through all of those steps to access the grant application. If you've gone through the steps, great, maybe there's going to be other opportunities in the future, but for the purposes of this grant program, you will not need to go through the extra step of logging into SAMS and getting a DUNS number. Another point I want to just make clear, because I was on a call with some of my friends from the National Restaurant Association this morning, this is not something that everybody should be banking on getting funds from. This is $28 billion that is going to be overextended. And for the first few weeks of it being open, it's going to be limited entirely to minority, women-owned, veteran-owned businesses, and those that make less than $500,000 a year. So this is not something that everybody should expect they're going to be guaranteed funds from. So I want to be really upfront about that with everybody. As you know, when we initially had the grant program, we wanted 120 billion. This is 28 billion. So please do not say, I'm not going to apply for the P3 or I'm not going to apply for something else because I'm banking on the RRF, because we cannot guarantee that everybody's going to get the RRF. And even then, we're going to be asking for it to be refunded in terms of additional federal assistance, but we can't guarantee that either. So please just take it all with a grain of salt in terms of applying for that. And as soon as we get more information, we're going to make sure you all have it, so those of you that are eligible can apply as quickly as possible. Another thing to flag for all of you, the EIDL, if you had an EIDL or you're interested in an EIDL, remember this is a loan program, so it is not a grant. They have increased that maximum allowance from 150,000 to 500,000. So it is a low interest loan program from the federal government, but they have increased that allowance for those of you that are interested in it. So that has recently happened. The other item I wanted to flag is the P3 application period has been extended. Technically, you would have had to apply today to be out to apply for a P3. It has been extended to May 31st. And they've given a little bit more time for applications to be approved upon you applying. So if you haven't applied for the P3, you have until May 31st to do so. A question we have been receiving is there an increase from the 24-week cap? There was not. In the federal bill that was passed, you still have to use it over the course of 24 weeks. I know a few of you had reached out and asked if it would be extended to 30 or 36 weeks. It's still over the course of 24 weeks. So that's for your P3. And then I do also, we have an agenda for the National Restaurant Association Public Affairs Conference. It's April 20th to the 22nd. I think we can probably throw that in the chat. We have some awesome speakers scheduled to come. Senator Manchin from West Virginia just got confirmed. We have Rahm Emanuel scheduled to speak. Dana Perino is scheduled to speak. Our very own Brian Fitzpatrick is going to be interviewed as part of this, and there's going to be so many amazing sessions. So please, if you have not registered for that yet, please do so. It is going to be, the day of program is going to be on the 20th, and then we'll be scheduling legislative meetings with our congressional delegation on the 21st and the 22nd. And it is going to be really good timing because, as I just mentioned, as it pertains to the RRF and as it pertains to things like minimum wage, the timing couldn't be better for us to be having those conversations with our congressional delegation. So it's $50 if you use the member discount code. Please take a moment and register. It's all via Zoom. You don't have to travel to DC. You can wear pajama pants with a nice top. Just wear a nice top if you can. And please register for the public affairs conference because the timing is really going to be key for all of that. So a lot of stuff happening administratively at the federal level. So please stay tuned as we get more information. As you all know, the National Restaurant Association has been putting together some awesome webinars to get you that information. And then, of course, on my weekly webinars, I try to drill down a little bit more to get you more of the information that you might not have gotten on the larger webinars. So that's where we are for everything in terms of federal and funding. And then let's talk about state stuff, because I took a week off and all kinds of things were happening. State update. Some of PRLA's liquor priorities moved last week. We had a few headaches along the way, but they have our final passage in the House next week. One of the key ones for all of you is increasing the licensee discount from 10 to 15%. That would be effective at the end of the declaration emergency and then for 3 more years. So that bill should be passed in the House next week. The other bill that should pass in the House is selling product. If God forbid you go out of business, you'd be able to sell your remaining wine and spirits to another licensee. So both of those bills are expected to move out of the House next week and go to the Senate. The other bill that its politics is always so much fun, that deals with our extension of premise for our outdoor dining facilities, eliminating the 52 cap for caterers and eliminating the fee and eliminating the 5-hour limit. It was put into a bill that was sponsored by Representative Deasy, who is a Democrat, and politics is fun. So they did not move that bill last week. So we are hoping to move it next week, and if not, we'll explore loading that language into another bill. So that's a lot of insider, too much detail politics for all of you. But short story is that we will get those other issues done. We just might have to get a little bit creative in getting them done. Other bills that I wanted to flag, because I've gotten this question a few times, is we are imminently filing a bill to make mixed drinks to go permanent for all of you. Representative Kurt Mosser is that prime sponsor. We just approved the draft language about 20 minutes before this call, so it should get filed shortly. Our goal is to get this passed before you lose the ability to sell mixed drinks to go. Let me clarify that, because that's another question we've been getting a lot of question about. Once Sunday happens, once the mitigation measures are lifted more, you will not lose your ability to sell mixed drinks to go. You will only lose your ability into when the declaration emergency ends. So for example, if the voter referendum passes on May 18th, that would begin a 21-day clock that it would potentially go away. Our goal is to make it permanent before any of that happens. But that's another bill that we're now working on as well. And we hope to get these bills moving over the next few weeks. We do have in the House a new liquor committee chairman. Representative Metzger is our new chairman for the House Liquor Control Committee. He's a good friend to the industry. He and I have known each other for years. So we will be connecting with him and discussing our legislative priorities as he gets comfortable in his new position as chairman. All of this, of course, is on a timeline, and we recognize that the legislative process moves slowly. But as I said, we hope to get some of these bills over to the Senate next week, and then hopefully with passage over the course of April and May and get them across the finish line. So stay tuned as we continue to work through all of those legislative priorities. I did want to flag just quickly the CHIRP grant. For some of you, your CHIRP grant program has closed, but for some of you, others of you, you didn't get enough applications. So I know Philadelphia did not get nearly enough applications for the funding that they received. And we're hearing about that in a few other counties as well. So if you have not applied for the CHIRP grant, please go onto your county's website and check and see if it's open or closed. It might be closed now, but some counties, as they work through the application process, might reopen the grant program. So please, like I said, if you haven't, especially because we don't know what's going to happen with RRF, take the opportunity to apply for that CHIRP grant. It really is inclusive of almost all of our membership in terms of hotels and restaurants. As for my other entities that might not be eligible right now, we are working on separate grant programs to get funding if you are not eligible for the CHIRP grant and the $145 million there. And I have a meeting this afternoon to discuss that. So we've not dropped the ball on getting additional grant programs, especially with additional federal dollars coming to the state. So stay tuned as we work through that. The only other item I wanted to flag, just because it's timely and I think it's worth at least mentioning it because it's a different approach. 2 Senate Republican senators are introducing a minimum wage package, which has happened in the past, but not to this extent. Actually, Senator Scott Wagner years ago introduced a minimum wage bill, but now we have Senator Laughlin from Erie County and Senator Pat Brown from the Lehigh Valley that are introducing their own minimum wage increase. It would increase the minimum wage to $10 an hour, and it would make the tipped wage 40% of what the minimum wage is. So it would increase the tipped wage to $4 an hour. So that bill will be introduced. It's the first time that we've seen senators in kind of leadership positions. Senator Pat Brown is the Senate Appropriations Chair. He's in a leadership position. Introduce a package of legislation like that. So we're going to, of course, be communicating with their offices and talking through this. I think at the end of the day, we're looking at, no matter what, a federal package getting across the finish line, or potentially a state package like this getting across the finish line as part of potentially a budget deal. So stay tuned as we work through all of that. PRLA's priorities through all of this is to make sure our Government Affairs Committee is reviewing these proposals, which will be done at their meeting in about a week and a half. The Government Affairs Committee will meet, but also ensuring that it's tied to that overtime salary threshold to make sure that if we're increasing the minimum wage, we're making sure the overtime threshold is not increasing like it's supposed to at the state level. So lots of things are happening, but please stay tuned as we work through all of that. And of course, we will be collecting feedback from all of you as we work through it internally. I think state mitigation. Alrighty, so we are getting closer to where other states have been for weeks. So here we are chugging along. The updated order begins at midnight on April 4th, which means it begins Easter. So basically Saturday to Sunday at midnight is when the new order takes effect. We do not have guidance yet. I know it's ridiculous. I know it doesn't make sense. I know you have a lot of questions, and I will try to answer through many of those questions today. We are expecting to get the guidance tomorrow from the governor's office. And of course, once we get it, we will get it out to you. If we feel that we need to schedule a webinar on Friday to kind of work through some more detailed questions, we're happy to do that. And we'll give you one of those last minute calls for a webinar as we work through what the guidance says. As a reminder, it is an increase for restaurants for up to 75% if you self-certify. If you do not self-certify, you're going to stay at 50%. Bar seating is allowed. And let me clarify this. You can have seats at the bar. You were always allowed to have bar service, at least for the last few months. You are allowed to have seats at the bar. What we're looking to ascertain is it social distancing, or can we bring back those bar blocks that were permitted before under green? So we will get that in the updated guidance. We pushed for the fact that before we were allowed to have barriers in place, and we hope to maintain that. Also keep in mind, none of this applies to Philadelphia, because you are where dreams go to die right now. But it does apply to the other 66 counties in the state, including Allegheny County. The meal requirement is eliminated. After this week, I no longer have to tell you that if you get chicken fingers, you won't get COVID. And 11 p.m. last call ends. We got an interesting question. Allison, I think, is probably on the call about this. And I'm going to tell you what I think. Because a good question was, it's Saturday night at 11 p.m. Somebody orders a drink because it's last call. And then what happens between that hour of 11 p.m. and midnight when you're not supposed to serve them another drink, but when you hit the stroke of midnight, technically you can serve them a drink. I'm going to give you my gut. I would like to see the LCE agent that's going to ding you for serving somebody a second beer between 11 and midnight. But if you want to be safe, they can order a beer at 11, and at midnight, they can order another beer, or a martini, or a margarita, or a glass of wine. So I don't think you're going to see enforcement happening between that 11 and midnight hour on Saturday. That's not the intent of the regulations. And then, of course, events, 25% indoor. I know it's a joke, 50% outdoor. And all of this, like I said, does take effect on Sunday. We will get more guidance, and I'm sure that FAQ is going to come out tomorrow, and I'm going to be following up with about 60 different questions with the administration. But as we get the answers, we will get them out to you. I do not expect there to be a ton of enforcement beginning on Easter Sunday. So we do have a few days to work through, I think, some of the hiccups through this process. Vaccines. For the first time, if you go about it the right way, you can actually get a vaccine appointment, which means that we're finally starting to get enough vaccines to vaccinate the population of Pennsylvania. And it's funny that I mentioned this before, but I think when we were talking before about where restaurant workers were in the state, where our hotel workers were in the state as it compares to 1A, 1B, and 1C, and I said, I don't think you're going to see that much difference between 1B and 1C at the end of the day. And it looks like that's the route we are going. As we're getting more vaccines, as more mass vaccination sites are beginning, we do expect that the governor's office within the next few weeks will open up vaccinations to everybody. President Biden has said he would like everybody to be eligible by May 1st. I think Pennsylvania's intention is to do that. So we're not going to see that kind of phase out, I think, that we were expecting before. We expect it to open up to everybody within the next few weeks. So we will be getting people vaccinated. I urge you to sign up for any of those vaccination sites that you can. Rite Aid and CVS are doing a great job getting people scheduled. So if you're eligible and you haven't signed up, do so, because I do think that we're going to have a kind of a big opening within the next few weeks. That might make it a little harder, at least on the front end, to get vaccinated. I think that's my state update. Philadelphia, like I said, there's no changes to current standards. You still have to have all of the HVAC requirements in Philadelphia to bump down to where we are, that April 7th date. There is a public hearing in Philadelphia on April 7th that PRLA is getting testifiers for, to really draw attention to how truly terribly the city has handled the restaurant regulations, and how the HVAC standards that are in place to operate at 50% are absolutely hurting our minority business owners, small business owners, and quite honestly, the vast majority of restaurant owners within the city. So there will be a public hearing to draw attention to that on April 7th at 2 p.m. So stay tuned for that. A number of PRLA's members, caterers, hoteliers, restaurateurs will be testifying at that hearing. Emergency paid leave. Philly friends, listen to me now, because the mayor signed it on Monday, so it's effective immediately. They didn't post that he signed it, but we've been told that he signed it on Monday, and it is effective immediately. So you do need to provide up to an additional 80 hours of paid leave to your employees if they are out to quarantine because of COVID, they have COVID, or they need to care for somebody with COVID, or their child is not in school because of COVID. It is a fresh up to 80 hours. If you have employees that don't work full time, it's an average of the 2 weeks that they work, the average hours of the 2 weeks that they work. If you have less than 500 employees, you are eligible for that tax credit from the federal government. So I urge you to use it. And that legislation is effective until the end of the emergency declaration. So please keep in mind, there's going to be a big push for that. So people are eligible for that additional up to 80 hours in Philadelphia. Outdoor entertainment bill. So we're trying to get some like a splatter of good news amidst all of this. Legislation is moving through city council right now in Philadelphia that would allow for outdoor entertainment. Yes, for all of you in the other 66 counties in Philadelphia, you have not been permitted to have any type of outdoor entertainment, even though the only place you could go to eat or interact with other people was outdoors for the last year. That legislation is expected to pass city council in the next few weeks, and it would allow businesses with outdoor eateries, streeteries, things like that to bring in entertainment for their guests at no extra cost. So once that passes, we will get more information out to all of you of the process of applying for that. You do have to inform the city 72 hours in advance if you are going to have outdoor entertainment. And then there's a few other parameters in place as well, but it is to try to allow those restaurants and businesses that can be created with those outdoor spaces to add the entertainment to that. Allegheny County Council, as you all know, County Executive Rich Fitzgerald vetoed that legislation. There is going to be a push today within council to try and override that veto. It sounds like it will not happen. I think council members kind of realized that he didn't veto it because he opposed it. He just vetoed it because it wasn't done legally. So it sounds like Allegheny County Council will be going about passing paid sick leave correctly. So it is something that is going to be passed. It's probably not something that is going to be passed within the next few weeks or few months. But please stay tuned to that as that type of legislation continues through Allegheny County and possibly through other parts of the state as well. And I think I can stop talking for now.
All right, great. Well, thank you everybody for joining us.
Did you get a haircut?
I did get a lot of cut. I did take about 3 inches off.
Everyone look at Hope's hair.
This is what happens during COVID. Anyway, we are resuming all our chapter meetings starting next week. So please be sure to check out the calendar, get registered, and get to one of these meetings to talk with your local individuals. And Heidi, I know, has been planning some great speakers and other things during those meetings. So please check that out on our website. And we will be back next week, but it won't be Melissa with the update. And we have scheduled some dates for April. We do plan on doing the update through April, but next week will be John and Ben pulling it'll be John pulling the heavy load according to Ben. So John will be taking over for the industry update next week. And there are, John's on board, great. Madden Media will be doing a webinar tomorrow for our destination marketing organization. So please check that out. It's talking about the pandemic, social challenges, and how the role of destination intelligence, how it's changed now. And NRA will also be doing another webinar on OSHA compliance, how to operate safely during the pandemic. And so you understand the rules and how to operate your business during this time. Next, okay. The job board, we did advertise this over the last 2 days that we are promoting this pretty heavily through our social media. I've been doing some promotion with our HARP applicants and through our applicants coming through our scholarship to let them know that this job board is up there and that you guys are posting. And we saw a lot of activity in the last 2 days. So please be sure to get your jobs up there, and we are going to work our hardest to get the message out for our individuals to be checking out the job board. And for HARP, we are on our last group of HARP grants, and we're going to be starting our 2021 fundraising efforts so that we can continue this fund throughout the year. So starting next week, I think Heidi is going to be presenting some social media kits that you can use for yourself to possibly add it to your website, or to just get the word out to the customers on how they can support the businesses. Training solutions, we are doing StarSafe classes, and please don't be negligent on getting your people recertified if their certification is expiring. We do have classes. Our website has the full schedule up there. If you have a group of people that you want to get, like maybe 10 people in your restaurant, please contact me. We can work on getting a corporate class together for you too. And tomorrow is the end of the scholarship program deadline for applications. So please, if you know any students who are looking for some extra dollars to help them go back to school in the fall, have them check that out. And that's about it for right now. You ready for all your questions?
I hope so. All right. I may answer the first one, but I'll reiterate it again. You will be allowed to have bar stool seating once bar seating opens up on Sunday. We're just waiting for clarification of, like I said, 6 feet social distancing or those bar blocks. And then, yes, as Bob mentioned, we do not expect an update from the governor's office until tomorrow. If they get it out today, I will be pleasantly surprised, but stay tuned tomorrow for that updated guidance. Lots of links. Can we get to when we get to questions, can you please review if there's any change to the ability to provide a cocktail hour at a wedding? My understanding is it's not currently allowed due to mask requirements. Is there any workaround that we're able to do something akin to a cocktail hour? It's actually not permitted because you have to be seated when food or drink is happening. So I guess a cocktail hour cannot occur in the way that you think of a cocktail hour, which is everybody standing around with a drink in their hand and they're taking food from past hors d'oeuvres or going to a buffet style and kind of hanging out for a standing cocktail hour. You could have a seated cocktail hour where people could go and get food from a table, go to the bar and get a drink, and then go back to their seat. But your issue, logically, your issue with the mask is the fact of how do you eat and drink when you have a mask on, which you can't do. But the bigger issue is that we don't anticipate the guidance requiring you to be seated when eating or drinking to go away. And that's where the cocktail hour issue arises. And yes, thanks, Donnie. The deadline to submit applications. Yes, I'm sorry. It has been extended to April. With the new vaccine distribution just announced, the PA Department of Health removed all 5 sites within McKean County. So we now have no sites within our county to obtain a vaccine, and we have totally gone backwards. Closest sites will be a 45-minute drive. I'm sure the state doesn't even know where our county is. And when drawing their circles, they missed us completely. Any suggestions of who we can reach out to try to correct this? I can reach out, Linda, I'll reach out to the Department of Health and flag it for them. Let me write it down so I don't forget.
Thank you.
I will show them where McKean County is on the map as well. Okay. Ben, I'm going to chip this one over to you. Have we gotten the updated clarification on allowing food at the business meetings? Would a conference center to be able to hold indoor events at 25% capacity? Have we gotten anything from the city yet?
We have not, and I have had a lot of people asking that. You know, if it's just hotels, is it private clubs? What does that mean for other businesses that do host meetings? You know, a lot of restaurants have private dining rooms that host business meetings, so we really need the guidance on that. And considering we're 3 days out from April 4th, it would be great to have it sooner than later.
Okay, I feel better because I thought I didn't know the answer. So I'm glad that there isn't an answer. Well, not glad that there isn't an answer, but tip from Bob, FYI on CVS and vaccines, each vaccine vial holds 6 doses. This means they typically have 3 to 5 doses remaining at the end of the day. The local CVS stores in his area maintain a paper handwritten waiting list. Around 5:30, they figure out how many unused doses they have and they call on a first answered first dose basis. So there's a tip for all of you if you can go about it that way. And I know there are, if there are places around the state that are doing a similar thing, because they have to use the vials within a certain period of time. Anyone have a website solution? I don't know. I'm going to read it out loud, but I don't have an answer for you, Kimberly. Anyone have website solutions for job applicants? Have ads everywhere and not one applicant for a hotel or restaurant. So I think that's the universal problem within the industry right now. Our biggest problem before COVID was getting workers, and now our biggest problem during COVID is getting workers. We will be providing for information on how to view the public hearing on restaurant guidance in Philadelphia on 4/7. You can stream it live on Philadelphia's public access channel. It will be live streamed, and we will include a link in our daily update a day before as well. So it will be on the 7th at 2 o'clock, and you can stream it. If you usually watch the updates from Dr. Farley, it can be streamed on that Philadelphia public access channel. Do you expect any additional loosening of restrictions in the next couple of months? Oh, Kate. Yes, I do. Yes, I think there will be. I think we're getting vaccinated. I think that the comment over the past few days about cases rising, I think it's a little unfair to state something like that when vaccinations are happening. So I do expect that we will continue to see a loosening of restrictions. For us, it's especially important that we loosen restrictions for our events and for our weddings and all of those. And that's really a focus that we have. I think we need to get through Sunday. I think we need to see how that shakes out. And then John and I are regularly having meetings with the administration, and it continues to be something that we're pushing. I think the increase in cases doesn't help us right now, but hopefully those will drop over the next few weeks and we can have another conversation about it. Okay, oh man, this may not relate to current talk. Can you offer guidance? Can condiments be left on the table, salt, pepper, etc.? Do menus and condiments still need to be sanitized after every use? I need to double check on the condiment piece, but you do have to, you can use menus that you can sanitize, or you can use throwaway paper menus. But you cannot, but you have to sanitize in between. So the ban on that has ended. Let me just look real quick on the condiment piece. You are prohibited from placing condiments on table for use by multiple parties. So you cannot leave condiments on the table as of right now. So you do need to provide it to each individual guest. And that is on the guidance as it is today. But of course, this could change. But right now, the guidance right now says that you're prohibited from placing condiments on the tables. Now, if you are at a private event and you have the same people that are sitting at the table the whole time, that can be fine. If you're turning tables over, they don't want you to leave condiments on the table. Could you sanitize in between? Maybe, but it doesn't say that would be fine. So I would suggest that you just take them off the table. If you leave them on the table between guests, and sanitize them, then place them back down. Just don't leave them constantly on the table. I think for the meetings in Philadelphia, Dominique, we're still looking for answers on that. So as soon as we get that information, we'll get it out regarding the F&B for business meetings that Philadelphia came out with. A traditional wedding cocktail hour cannot take place outdoor. The requirement that you must be seated to eat and drink is universally applicable to indoor and outdoor. So you can't even have a standing cocktail hour outdoors right now. Maybe things will change, but as of right now, you do have to be in a seat if you're consuming food and beverage. You cannot be standing, because like I said, the seat requirement's your biggest prohibition. But if you have to be wearing a mask whenever you're not seated, how do you take a sip of wine or, eat a cheese plate while you're standing around? Okay, looks like we have some Facebook jobs. Just got applications for some positions. Ben posted the information about condiments. And I think I just talked really fast today.
I was gonna say, this went faster than I thought it would.
So I bet internally John's hoping that we do a webinar on Friday so he doesn't have to answer all the guidance questions next Wednesday.
I know.
Well, we'll see. I'll do whatever you need me to do. Good job. Bouncing back, Melissa, like you were never gone. Thank you.
Jumped right back into it.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We did record this and we'll send it out. As always, I hope you have a great day. And if you have any questions or need anything, please reach out to our staff and we'll help you as best we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Hope. Thanks,
Thanks,
Melissa.
everyone.
And bye, everyone.